Get ready to dive deep into the often misunderstood world of ADHD, where children can feel like they're constantly swimming upstream against an invisible current, and where parents can feel like ADHD dictates the mood of the entire home. While medication is often the go-to solution for managing symptoms, there are natural, alternative approaches available that can be just as effective and sometimes even more effective. In this documentary, we will uncover them together. If you're a parent or caregiver of a child with ADHD, then this film will give you the tools you need to navigate this complex condition and take control of your family's health and well-being. Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, or ADHD, is a neurological condition that affects millions of children worldwide. If you are a parent or a caregiver of a child with ADHD, it's important to know that it's not your fault if your family and your child is suffering. In fact, did you know that 54% of American children have been diagnosed with a chronic illness? I'm talking about ADHD, asthma, autism, depression, celiac, and even Crohn's disease. According to Epidemic Answers, this figure was 15% only a couple of decades ago. What is the cause, you ask? Look at the food we eat, the drugs we are prescribed, the toxins in our life, hidden pathogens, gut issues, and the list goes on. While medication has been the traditional treatment approach for ADHD, it's important to know there are other options available that can be equally effective in managing your child's symptoms. So let's explore some of these natural alternatives and help you feel empowered to make the best choices for your child's health and well-being.
So Elliot was a normal, cute little boy, but as he was a young child, we noticed that he was a late talker. He had trouble in social situations. He was fine when he was at home or one-on-one with his brother, but once he was in a group of children, that's when we started to see some differences.
We started noticing changes in her behavior, and mostly at home. We didn't even really need the teachers to tell us anything. Her level and magnitude of her tantrums, it was just crazy. Going out in public was great before, and then it started turning into an absolute nightmare. Like eating at restaurants was no longer possible. The playground, even for a little bit, was just really, really hard. And her focus, like some activities for a little while that she enjoyed doing, she just wouldn't really be paying attention to.
Before we received any official diagnoses for our son, my husband and I were always aware of behaviors that seemed to indicate ADHD, but it wasn't till he was around 4 that things got pretty difficult for our family. Our active little boy was bouncing off the walls with uncontrollable hyperactivity and impulsivity. The hardest part was the emotional dysregulation and anxiety that he was experiencing. And watching your child struggle like that is one of the most difficult things a parent can go through. You just feel absolutely helpless, and everyone ends up feeling out of control.
The pharmaceutical industry has been quick to provide medication as a solution for ADHD. In fact, according to a report by the IMS Institute for Healthcare Informatics, the sales of ADHD drugs in the United States alone exceeded $9 billion in 2012. And according to a report by the IQVIA Institute for Human Data Science, total spending on pharmaceutical drugs for ADHD and autism in the United States jumped to around $36 billion in 2020. While medication can be helpful for managing some of the ADHD symptoms, it's important to consider the motivations of the pharmaceutical industry. The primary goal of drug companies is to make profit, which may not align with the best interests of those suffering. In some cases, there have been concerns about overdiagnosis and overprescription of ADHD medications, which can lead to potential side effects such as stunted development, sleep problems, decreased appetite, and increased heart rate, just to name a few. As a parent or a caregiver, it's important to be informed and consider all options before making a decision about your child's treatment.
Parenting today has its challenges. That's even more true if you're parenting a child with ADHD. And today I'm joined with Donna Kay. She's a board-certified holistic health and nutrition practitioner and the CEO of the ADHD Thrive Institute. She's here to really walk us through how parents can help reduce ADHD symptoms in their children using natural methods. Donna, thanks for being here with us today.
ADHD affects every single area of a family's life, and when parents come to me, many of them have tried so many things that just haven't worked. They're desperate for a solution that will actually help their family. They want to have a calm and peaceful home. They want their child to be successful at school. They want something that will help with challenging ADHD symptoms.
And so the first thing that the doctor recommended was medication. That's what we started with. We had her on medication for about 3 years, and we just went from one medication to the next, and nothing was working. And I was getting frustrated because we were looking for more answers and we weren't getting them from our regular, pediatrician.
That's when I decided, okay, let's go see someone and get someone else's perspective and point of view. And that's how we decided to get her diagnosed. She was eventually diagnosed with ADHD, and then pretty quickly after talking to her pediatrician, we decided to try medication. That was an absolute fail on every level. So we decided to stop medications.
We took her in to see our pediatrician, filled out all of the forms, and it was very clear that she had ADHD. So she started on medication right away, which worked beautifully until it didn't. So in the beginning, we saw huge changes in her, very positive at school. But what we started to see over time is that the anxiety that medication was bringing out in her was almost debilitating. And the emotional roller coaster fits over every little thing. Something very minor would spin her world around on a daily basis. And we then switched her to a different medication, and she became this someone that we didn't even recognize. She was so flat. Her personality was completely gone. Her anxiety was off the charts. That's when we realized that we needed to do something different. We had lost our child in the process, and that's when we found this program.
Hello, my name is Donna Kay of the ADHD Thrive Project. I'm a board-certified holistic health and nutrition practitioner, 2 times international best-selling author, and the founder and CEO of the ADHD Thrive Institute. If you or someone you know has a child with ADHD, this short documentary is going to change your life.
I'm Dr. Anna Maria Temple, and I'm a holistic pediatrician coming to you directly from Charlotte, North Carolina, where I have an integrative practice as a mom of a child who was diagnosed with ADHD and was told that he needed to be on medication for year after year. I had to monitor my children's diet. And when I started monitoring my children's diet, I realized that my children have no driver's license because they were like 2, 4, and 6, and they had no money because they're 2, 4, and 6. So the only way that they were getting these processed foods was because I was purchasing them from the store, and I would bring them into the pantry. Today, our food sources are polluted by food coloring, artificial flavors, artificial preservatives, sugar, and so many chemicals that our children's brain are suffering. The rates of ADHD used to be 1 in 15, only about 15 years ago. Now we're like 1 in 10, moving to 1 in 6, and is escalating rapidly.
I had Googled ADHD a million different times and somehow stumbled upon Donna's program, joined her newsletter, and one day we were kind of at a crossroads with our pediatrician of deciding to add another anxiety medication to deal with the side effects of her ADHD medication. I decided enough was enough and contacted Donna and her team, watched their videos, did a chat. Literally within 24 hours of all of that, we were enrolled in the program. We were ready to try something new.
My mission is to empower parents of children with ADHD with the knowledge that they don't have to suffer. Their children don't have to constantly battle debilitating ADHD symptoms. There is hope, and it is possible for children with ADHD to not just get by in life, but also thrive. I understand the challenges that come with managing ADHD because I too have a child who has this diagnosis. But I'm here today to tell you that there are practical, natural solutions and alternative approaches that can alleviate symptoms, improve quality of life, and help you regain that sense of calm in your home. More than anything, I want every child with ADHD to feel supported, understood, and valued for who they are. With the right tools and support, children with ADHD can thrive, achieve their full potential, and even learn how to harness their ADHD superpowers. So let's explore the world of ADHD together and discover new ways to help our beautiful children live happy, healthy, and fulfilling lives.
I was continuously doing research on my own, and one day Donna's program popped up, and I realized, I'm like, this is what we need to do. She knows what she's doing. I watched her free training class, and I was immediately shocked. I'm like, yes, this is what we need. After watching Donna's training, we signed up right away. We worked out the financial part of it because we knew that this was the right thing to do.
When my son was diagnosed with ADHD, we were told the same thing that many people are told today. The only effective way to manage symptoms was through medication. Unfortunately for us, the medication did more harm than good and introduced new debilitating side effects. Eventually, my son's doctor was recommending 4 strong medication, and 3 of these were just to counteract the side effects from the others. That was when I said enough is enough and began learning about natural ways to reduce ADHD symptoms. Today, I'm going to share those strategies with you so you too can begin to reduce your child's ADHD symptoms.
So I ended up finding Dana's program for the ADHD children through Facebook. I was scrolling one day, just, looking at posts, and I saw it pop up. I had never seen it before. And it was a more natural way to handle or resolve children with ADHD. So I clicked on it and I started reading the information. And the one thing that I really enjoyed was that they did functional lab testing. They wanted to do 3 sets of tests first to actually determine what was going on before they just put her on a medication. And that was the number one reason why I clicked on it and wanted to go forward.
Several of the families I have worked with have seen such dramatic changes in their own families that they wanted to help others achieve the same. For instance, one of our ADHD Thrive Method Mum graduates, Andrea, is now a certified expert coach inside the ADHD Thrive Institute, helping others find the same freedom from ADHD symptoms that her family has found.
Because of my experience in going through this journey with my son, it was the driving force of me becoming a coach. And because of the healing protocol that Donna created, we went through a full supplemental protocol, diet and lifestyle changes, and this was game-changing for him. And I was just blown away by this. And my background, I've always helped children who have behavioral disorders and learning disabilities. And when I saw the changes that this was making for my own son, I knew I really needed to be part of this movement and helping other families and their kids, because it was so hard for me. And it doesn't need to be hard for everyone.
Out of everything I have done in my work with ADHD, the most liberating thing for me is seeing parents and caregivers discover that they have more options than they realize. Many people are told that medication is the only effective solution for managing ADHD symptoms, and it can be a relief for them to learn that there are other approaches that can be equally effective. Seeing parents and caregivers feel empowered to take control of their child's treatment and to explore alternative strategies is truly liberating. It's also rewarding to see the positive changes within a child that can result from these approaches, such as improved focus, better sleep, improved mood and behaviour, and reduced anxiety. Ultimately, my goal is to help parents and caregivers feel more confident and capable in managing their child's ADHD, and to provide them with the tools and the support they need to help their child thrive.
When I started Donna's program, I knew I was finally on the right path, that she had our back. And by changing our diet and going through her program, we got our son back. His self-confidence and his courage returned. He was no longer putting holes into walls or dealing with paralyzing anxiety. His OCD tendencies went away, and he was far more capable of regulating his emotions. He was having an easier time playing with friends and getting along. He can now talk about how he's feeling. He can sit through a restaurant meal. He's still 7 and full of life, but so much of that impulsivity is gone, and he makes better choices on a consistent, regular basis. This past summer, we actually took a vacation to Disney World for the first time as a family.
Sit back and grab a pen and paper, because you are going to learn a lot in this documentary. Being a US board-certified holistic health and nutrition practitioner, I help families all across the USA impacted by ADHD to reduce symptoms naturally so that their kids can feel better and their families can thrive. I also understand that dealing with ADHD can be extremely frustrating, especially when you've tried various treatments and haven't seen the results you were looking for. Maybe you've tried medication, maybe you've tried supplementation, behavioral therapy, or various other approaches, but the improvements have been minimal. Perhaps you've seen progress in one area, but there are still challenges in other areas. Or maybe you have even seen symptoms get worse with certain treatments or seen new side effects develop. Maybe, like many of the families we work with, your child has experienced significant challenges at school.
So we started to notice something was different with Ava when she was around 4, when we had to do a preschool interview, and the preschool told us she wasn't qualified to be in their classroom, and they told us that we needed to look elsewhere for an education system. That's when we first started to notice that maybe there is something more, just, the usual that we need to address or figure out, because they wouldn't even have her in the preschool program.
My sons were being suspended from school multiple times throughout the year. They both had an IEP and 504. They weren't able to behave well in school and focus on their work. The major problem I wanted to solve was to keep them in school and not get them suspended, sent home, and to focus and use their potential to the fullest. The problem was on a daily basis. I would get phone calls to come get them, and our family couldn't maintain a job because of that. We tried many solutions. We saw psychologists, we saw a psychiatrist, and tried different medications, all that made them more aggressive, which we didn't want.
It wasn't really until he was 5 and we got the call from school on the first day of kindergarten to come pick him up because he was being very aggressive in the class. And so when we went to go pick him up, that was when his teacher, she started giving us some ideas of what it might be, and that's when ADHD came up. When the teachers start talking about ADHD, the first thing that comes up is medication.
Have you worried about the cocktail of prescribed medications and how they are affecting your child? Have you noticed any correlation between food and behavior? Is your child a picky eater?
I started seeing a lot of issues with Levi's development that differed from my oldest. He started displaying a lot of food issues. He went from eating really well to being extremely picky eater. We went down to 5 items that he would eat total. Levi also was getting sick a lot. He had RSV about 2 or 3 times and developed asthma due to it. He's also displayed a lot of anger issues, and he was not able to regulate his emotions at all. He was kicking and screaming, could not go to the grocery store and make a normal run as I did with my daughter when she was young. So we saw a lot of differences in his attitude, his behavior, and the way that he ate.
One of my favorite success stories is Emily. Before working with her and her son, she was so overwhelmed and her whole family was in turmoil. But when she learnt the truths that I will share in this documentary, she was blown away and felt an instant sense of relief, knowing there was hope to overcome their challenges.
And that is when I saw an ad for Donna's program. And at that time, I felt so overwhelmed with everything. I think it was like 30 minutes. I didn't make the time for it, and I kept putting it off. Things really got to a head at one point, and Reese just had a really huge emotional outburst, and it was impacting the entire family. And so I just got up at 2 o'clock in the morning one day and watched her video, and immediately signed up to have a talk with Andrea the next day. From there, I signed up and joined the program immediately. He had a history of antibiotic use. He had a history of food poisoning, and I know those things destroyed his gut. I never correlated behavior with food. I just thought, oh, food can lead to maybe this inflammation with ear infections, but I had no idea of the link between food and ADHD and other. And so when I listened to Dana's first little introductory course, I was blown away and I started crying. I said, of course, this all makes sense why these other things also cause inflammation and it impacts behavior. That is what made me join the program.
After Emily's initial breakthrough call with us, she knew that this was the right path to take. She started working with us to learn how to reduce her son's ADHD symptoms using natural solutions. Things like dietary changes, targeted supplementation, and lifestyle and environmental changes.
With Dana's program, however, not only is it elimination of foods through lab testing, it's also an entire protocol for gut healing. And then you have a whole support system in place to make sure that you're successful on your journey. That is not something I've seen anywhere else, and that is why her program is so worth it and why I joined for myself and the family. And the reason why I decided as a family we needed to do it, because we're all having various health issues, and I knew Dana's program could address it, and it has. It's been incredible, it's been amazing, it's been life-changing.
One of our clients, Marie, thought she was out of options. When the medications prescribed didn't work, they almost resigned themselves to a life dictated by the challenges ADHD presents. They started to think they would just have to live with ADHD and were destined to a life that was less than they always imagined it would be.
When I found Dana and her approach to ADHD really online, I really felt relieved, because after the epic fail of medication, I thought, okay, that's it for us. Like, we're out of solution. We're just going to have to learn to live with this somehow. And so the fact that she proposed something completely different, she had been through the situation and, absolutely relate, was a game changer for me.
This is my son, Oliver. He's now a teenager, and I literally can't believe how amazing he's doing. He does great at school. He has a wonderful circle of friends. He gets along really well with his younger brother, most of the time. But he is happy, and he is really, really positive. But it wasn't like that just 9 years ago. He was diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 4, and back then, when his ADHD symptoms were at their worst, every day was like being on an emotional roller coaster, feeling like we were constantly walking on eggshells. Our family life was in turmoil. I felt like a terrible, terrible mom, and even our marriage was on the rocks.
What tips would you give families if their child is battling any of these symptoms?
Yeah, look, definitely the top tip that I have is that I tell families that come to me that are interested in my program, which is the ADHD Thrive method for kids, is to trust their gut. When my son was diagnosed with ADHD, our doctor suggested a medication, then a second, and then a third medication to actually counteract the side effects of the others. And I ignored my gut. And it was only when our doctor wanted to put my son on a fourth medication, I finally started listening to my intuition. Now, I'm not against medication, but my instincts told me that 4 strong medications for his little body was just not the right course of action for us.
I am just like any other parent. I was and still am a busy full-time working mum, and this issue with my son was so consuming. I had no idea if I could do what was really necessary to address my son's ADHD. I spent hours and hours researching on the internet, reading books, journals, and looking for answers and ideas on what I could do differently. The changes in the way we ate and lived also required buy-in from my family, and I remember dreading having to tell my son that he could no longer eat some of his favourite foods. I prepared myself for a total meltdown. That conversation was a challenge for sure, but our family got through it. But it was tough. It was really tough, and I honestly felt so alone. I don't want any parent to feel like that or to feel guilty about where they are right now. Fast forward to today, my son Oliver is thriving. He hasn't been on meds for years, but most importantly, he's happy. I'm happy, and our family finally found that peace and calm I always dreamed about.
I would just say that it's scary to go out on a limb and do something on your own that's not recommended per se by your pediatrician. And this program has not been easy for our family by any stretch of the imagination. It's been one of the hardest things we've done, but we've seen so many small changes in our daughter that have created a much happier home. We don't battle anymore. She is happy and thriving in life. We are loving seeing our daughter every day, interacting with her and knowing that it's her bubbly personality, and we would do this over 100 times again if that's the end result.
Each child is a bio-individual, meaning every child is unique. It's not just about looking at your child's health history. We dive deep into the key symptoms your child is struggling with, what your current family diet and home environment look like, what obstacles may be in your way, and finally, what does your ideal family life look like now and into the future? If you are considering a program that doesn't factor in these important questions, then you are receiving a cookie-cutter solution to your child's bio-individual unique needs. We are halfway through this documentary now, but the best is still ahead. Stick around because we're going to discover what's really driving your child's ADHD symptoms, and it's probably not what you might think. I know there may be some of you listening today that are tired of trying this approach and that approach, only to be disappointed time and time again because nothing works long term. If you are ready for a change and feel like you need an expert's help, we can help. Click that link below and schedule your free ADHD Thrive breakthrough call and let us show you a better way. What is the underlying stressor driving ADHD symptoms? Contrary to popular belief, ADHD is not just in the brain. It's also deeply connected to the gut and the rest of the body. Inflammation, more than anything else, is what's driving those challenging symptoms. The gut-brain connection is the key when seeking to reduce ADHD symptoms naturally, because when you reduce inflammation in the gut and the brain, you optimize that gut-brain connection. So, what exactly is the gut-brain connection? In essence, it means that our brains are deeply connected to our guts. If our guts aren't functioning well, our brains won't be able to function well either. ADHD symptoms can become worse when the gut isn't functioning properly.
What's in fast food, preservatives that have been documented in numerous medical studies to increase the rates of ADHD, anxiety, and depression, food coloring, which adversely affects children's brains, preservatives. Let's talk about sugar for a second. Sugar is now in literally every processed product on the market. And by the way, pro tip, if a product says kids, I guarantee you with my medical license that has added sugar in it.
Reese, before she was on antibiotics from the time she was 5 weeks old until she was 7, because she was born with a kidney condition, and that really wreaked havoc on her stomach and her gut, which we really never put the 2 and 2 together, but she always had stomach issues. We would constantly battle that. She would go on Miralax. Just last night we were recalling a time that I gave her 8 caps of Miralax, and literally she had to miss days of school because she couldn't stay off the toilet. And then a month later, we would be right back with the Miralax again. Many trips to the doctor with constipation that you could feel in her stomach, constantly bloated.
80% of the body's entire immune system is within the gut wall, along with billions of nerve cells and an extensive amount of beneficial gut bacteria. So all of our children's health is quite literally connected to everything that occurs in the gut. I have countless families come to me for guidance with their child's ADHD symptoms, and when I ask whether there's any history of sickness, people usually tell me that everyone is fit and healthy. But when I dig deeper and ask whether their child has been on antibiotics or has suffered any diarrhea or constipation, they often tell me that they have. They're surprised to learn that it's not healthy or even normal. It might be very common, but it's a byproduct of an unhealthy gut.
And immediately, within a week or two, she came downstairs and she said, "Look, Mommy, my stomach is not hurting anymore." Even last night, she said to me, "Why didn't you find this program earlier? My stomach doesn't hurt anymore." She was having a little bit of a bellyache last night. She said, "Is this what I used to feel like every single day of my life?" She just feels better. It's been a wonderful thing for our entire family.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vincent Pedre, a functional medicine certified gut expert and also a board certified internist. As a medical doctor and a functional gut expert, I have been privy to the importance of gut health in almost every aspect of our health. And when it comes to ADHD, the gut-brain connection is real, it is powerful, and it is something that needs to be tended to in order to improve and even possibly reverse ADHD symptoms in children that actually be originating in their gut health and their gut microbiome.
The old way of doing things is to focus on symptoms. But what I'm sharing with you today is a new way. Think of your child's symptoms like a fire. When a house fire breaks out and the emergency responders arrive on scene, they don't aim their hoses at the smoke. They aim them at the fire. They know that if they get the fire out, the smoke will eventually dissipate. It's the same way with our health. If we aim for the fire, in our case, the underlying internal stressor, the smoke, aka the symptoms, will eventually dissipate. But if all we do is flood the smoke with water, we're never actually even touching the problem below. The old medication paradigm focuses on treatment, but this new paradigm shifts the focus to prevention. What can parents do to get to those underlying stresses in the body? The first step is to focus on reducing inflammation. As I already mentioned, inflammation is the primary underlying stressor that is driving ADHD symptoms. parents can reduce this inflammation by adjusting diet and removing inflammatory foods such as gluten, dairy and soy, as well as refined sugars, artificial flavours and colours, and preservatives. These highly inflammatory substances can lead to an autoimmune response and, in some cases, damage the gut as well.
A really important shift that needs to happen in the paradigm of how we think about ADHD and children who are dealing with this is rather than thinking of it as a diagnosis, but actually looking at it as what is the root cause for this. We know that if there is a leaky gut, there's going to be a leaky blood-brain barrier. And when the gut is leaky, it allows for all these inflammatory substances to enter into the body. And when that blood-brain barrier becomes leaky, then the brain also becomes inflamed. And that inflamed brain in a child could manifest like ADHD symptoms, but it is not the cause of it. The underlying cause is the leaky gut that originated from poor diet, stress, from too much sugar, from processed foods, from all other sorts of dietary additives that are being put into our food, from antibiotics that are being overprescribed to children when they really might just not need antibiotics for a viral infection.
The second step after removing inflammatory foods is to identify additional underlying stresses in the body. In the past, we have found bacterial overgrowth and in some cases even parasites. I know, totally gross. We also look for the presence of heavy metals in the body and hormone imbalances such as dysregulated serotonin and dopamine production, which are our happy, feel-good hormones. We identify these through functional lab testing. Now, the third way to reduce inflammation is to reduce environmental toxins. These are things from cleaning products, personal hygiene products. We look at EMFs, which are electromagnetic field exposure, and we also look at technology. Reducing ADHD symptoms naturally is not just about what to take out or to reduce, but also what to put back in. Once we have effectively reduced inflammation in the body, the second thing that will help children with ADHD thrive is to restore the body to optimum function.
First of all, can you just quickly break down ADHD and the symptoms that you see?
Now, there are many symptoms. Some of them are impulsivity, fidgeting, unable to focus or pay attention, excessive physical movement and talking, aggression, and emotional dysregulation.
How can diet play a role in reducing triggers?
Oh, well, diet is the foundation of health. Now, if parents want to reduce ADHD symptoms in their children, they need to do much more than just give them a supplement or a pill. You know, supplements can be really effective and so can medication, but if children continue to eat processed inflammatory foods like gluten, dairy and soy, those ADHD symptoms are not going to go away because the foods they are eating are exacerbating symptoms.
Starting the program, once we decided to make that jump, it was a hard decision because with Levi only eating 5 foods, we didn't know how easy it would be to actually switch a diet. He was so codependent on these 5 foods, he would basically eat nothing going to gluten and dairy free. However, Donna made it very easy and helped train us on food chaining, which made it a lot easier.
It wasn't until we started Dana's program and we started changing the diet that she's actually now sleeping 8, 9, 10 hours a day. And it gets her ready and prepared for school the next day and all her, sporting events. And that's the one thing that we noticed was a huge change in sleep pattern, and it's made such an improvement in her lifestyle. So the one thing that we were able to do after going through Dana's program and doing the nutrition method for kids, that was something that we were never able to do before, was actually have a birthday party for her, where she had friends, several of her close girlfriends that came. She did a sleepover, and there were, several kids that came, were excited to be there, happy to be there, that are really close friends with her. And that's something we have never been able to do before we joined the program, because we've seen such an improvement in her behavior and her relationship with people that she's able to make friends now. And that's something that we were able to do to, to celebrate her birthday, but also celebrate her success through going through this program.
To restore the body, begin with diet and focus first on bringing in more fresh, whole fruits and veggies, grass-fed, animal protein, wild-caught fish, healthy fats, and eating a variety of foods that the body actually needs. Then consider bringing in some ADHD-specific supplements like probiotics, magnesium, and fish oil. We also want to focus on optimizing detoxification. No matter how hard we try, we simply can't avoid toxins in our lives. Our kids will get exposed to toxins on a daily basis, so it's important to learn how to continually detoxify through food, drinking more spring water, taking detox baths, and using special supplements or binders. Finally, we want to prioritize exercise and sleep as they are both critical pieces of the puzzle for ADHD kids.
Coaching for the ADHD Thrive Institute has changed my life in so many ways. I am a better mom because of the work that I am doing. It really changed my parenting in such a positive way where I could see things from a different perspective, and it really allowed our relationship to form and to flourish. And so my favorite thing is really watching other families go through this journey and building that relationship and repairing that relationship with their own children.
You can regain control. ADHD does not have to dictate the mood of your home. When families of children with ADHD begin reducing inflammation in the body and then replenishing the body using the strategies I mentioned, they start to see changes, sometimes in as little as 30 to 60 days. And you can do this too. ADHD does not have the final say in the happiness level of your home.
What I would say to parents all over the world is that your family's health is in your hands. There's so much doom and gloom and fear out there about everything going on, but the reality is we have so much control over our family's health, and there's so many little things that you can do every single day to make a difference, so that way our children don't end up with a chronic disease, or if they do have a chronic disease, then we can improve their symptoms naturally.
I would say that it wasn't even a month before we started seeing results. We jumped in right away with eliminating a lot of things, and I would say within 2 weeks we noticed that he was already listening to us better, and now he can get through his homework, and he is less argumentative, and in general just more happy. And just a couple weeks ago we received an email from the school that said he was no longer on the behavioral list, meaning that he was no longer a child that needed to be, watched as often for behaviors because he was having no behaviors in class.
One of the most common questions I get asked by families who decide they want to try natural strategies is this: when will I see results? And listen, I totally get it. I remember feeling desperate for a change, but also not wanting to try another thing that wasn't going to move the needle. So I wish I could guarantee that you will see results within just 2 weeks or a month or 3 months or whatever, but I can't do that because every child is different and every family is different. Reducing ADHD symptoms naturally is not a quick fix because it can take some time to reduce inflammation in the body. But what I can tell you is that if you are serious about following these natural strategies to reduce inflammation, you will see improvements in your child with ADHD. Many families report better emotional regulation, fewer meltdowns, better focus, and a better ability to handle frustrations. So if you are ready for a less chaotic household and want to stop walking on eggshells in fear of that next meltdown, if you are ready to go grocery shopping or out to eat with your child and not have to worry about when the next explosion would occur, if you are ready to get your child back, the child that you always knew he or she could be, If you are tired of seeing your child lonely or ostracized from friend groups at school or on the playground, then the natural strategies you are learning here today could make all the difference for you.
My son has never had friends. He is such a sweet little boy, but his behavior would just turn people off and they just wouldn't know how to work with him. Now he has friends because he can get along, and the school is great too. If there is an issue with kids, I can tell them and they can, work through it and discuss it. I can help him as well. He's open and receptive. He can actually implement these ideas. He can play with my other two children, my 6-year-old and my 2-year-old, in a healthy way. Before, he would hurt them by accident and then he would get mad and defensive and stomp off. Now, if he hurts them by accident, he's like, "Oh, are you okay? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that." And he'll adjust what he's doing to be more careful. It is just all around just a much better household now.
We saw a huge improvement. Within a 3-week period, we saw his eczema went from 100% to 50%. We saw eye-to-eye contact. We saw his speech improving. We saw his anger. It got worse, but then it got a lot better, Like within a day, it's like, what happened to my son? Where did you come from? This is the son that I always knew that you could be. It was heartwarming. It was, oh my gosh, my family is having the peace and the energy that we should always have. It was really great to have that improvement. But not only that, we added testing in. Once we added the testing in, then the food that was wreaking havoc on his body, we removed, and his eczema went away 100%. Not only that, but we have now since took him off of all asthma medicine. He is not considered an asthma patient anymore. He rarely gets sick, and he's just a happy, healthy kid. It's exciting.
I always knew that parenting would be hard. I guess I didn't realize it would be this hard. But a little secret I want to share with you, it doesn't have to be this hard. And you too can find a supportive community that will lift you up on those hard days and get you through, but also celebrate your wins and pull you in that forward trajectory. I found mine, and you can too.
It was definitely a challenge, but the reward to see my child happy and fitting in to society more was definitely worth it.
As I said before, my mission is to share hope with you today. Hope that children with ADHD can thrive at home, at school, and in life, and that ADHD symptoms can be reduced naturally. I hope that I have achieved that mission and that you feel empowered to take this knowledge and begin making changes today that will benefit your entire family for years to come. I 100% believe that you can do this. But if you are someone who wants expert guidance so that you can save yourself both time and money and stress and sidestep all of those obstacles, then I would be privileged to help you and your family. Click that link below and schedule your free ADHD Thrive breakthrough call and let us take some of that overwhelm out of the process for you.